Okay, this is going to be a double set of notes. We're going to be doing one-step and two-step equations. I'm going to go a little bit faster to this because for the most part, you've seen this in 7th and 8th grade. So hopefully this should all be review. So we're going to kind of jam through this, um, and then hopefully you'll be able to follow along. So it says, example 1, I want to get x plus 4 equal to 3. I want to solve for x. The goal is to get the variable x by itself. To get x by itself, we must get rid of the 4. The 4 is being added to the x. To get rid of the 4, you must do the inverse operation. Remember, the opposite of adding is subtracting. The opposite of subtracting is adding. The opposite of multiplication is division. And the opposite of division is multiplication. So we're going to need those 4. And in this case, because I'm adding 4, I need to do the opposite. The inverse of adding is subtraction. So my goal is to get this x by itself, and to get that x by itself, I'm going to do the opposite of adding 4, which is subtracting 4. These are going to cancel each other out. I get x is equal to -1. And we're done solving for that one, okay? Let's take a look at the next one. I got example number 2. 5 plus w is equal to x. Our goal is to get the variable w by itself. To get w by itself, we must get rid of the 5. In this case, the 5 is a positive number. We're doing this because that 5 is in the front, and that kind of changes things a little bit. But that 5 is a positive number. To get rid of the 5, you must do the inverse of what is already being done. The inverse operation is to subtract 5. Since I have a positive 5, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to do subtract 5. So I'm going to go ahead. Again, I'm trying to get this w by itself. To get the w by itself, I need to do the opposite of that 5, which is -5. These are going to cancel. The w is just going to drop. I got 6 minus 5, and the answer is 1. Example number 3 says x minus 6 is equal to 8. I want to get the variable x by itself. Let me go ahead and highlight the x that I'm trying to get by itself. To get the x by itself, you must get rid of the 6. The 6, in this case, is being subtracted from x. To get rid of the 6, you must do the inverse or opposite of what is already being done. The inverse operation of subtraction is going to be addition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 6 to both sides. These are going to cancel. I got 8 plus 6, and that gives me 14. Notice that the x just drops in that example. And then we're going to go on to example number 4. It says -7 plus w is equal to 2. My goal is to get the variable w by itself. Let me highlight the w. That's the one I'm trying to get by itself. To get w by itself, you must get rid of the 7. The 7 is negative. To get rid of the 7, you must do the inverse operation of what is already being done. Again, since it's a -7, we're actually going to add 7 to both sides. Because I'm going to do the opposite of that -7. So I'm going to add 7 to the left. I'm going to add 7 to the right. When I do that, these -7s or these 7s are going to cancel. The w is just going to drop, and then 2 plus 7 gives me 9. All right, that takes care of the first 4. Let's jump over to the next one. Our example is 4x equal to 12. We want to get the variable x by itself. This is what I want to get by itself. To get the x by itself, you must get rid of the 4. The 4 right now is being here's where it gets a little tricky because there is no operation between the 4 and the x. If there is no operation, you need to remember like, oh, that means it's the smallest operation possible, which is a little dot. I did not mean to do that. Let me go ahead and put the little dot in the middle. And that dot means they're multiplying. So right now the 4 is being multiplied by x. To get rid of the 4, you must do the inverse opposite of what is already being done. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So what we are going to do is we're going to divide both sides by 4. When you divide, you immediately put the line, and then underneath it you put a 4. These 4s are going to cancel. 12 divided by 4 on the right just gives me the 3. Okay, next one. I got -3w is equal to 9. My goal is to get the variable w by itself. I'm trying to get this one by itself. To get w by itself, you need to get rid of the 3 To get rid of the, you must get rid of the -3, sorry. To get rid of the -3, you must do the inverse of what already is being done. Inverse operation, well, right now it's being multiplied again, so the inverse operation would be to divide. -3 from both sides. Remember, dividing, you immediately put the line underneath. The -3s are going to cancel. The W is just going to drop. 9 divided by -3 gives me a -3. Okay, my goal is to get the variable x by itself. Let me go ahead and highlight that x. To get the x by itself, you must get rid of the 5. The operation between x and 5 is division. Remember that line in between numbers means we are dividing. To get rid of the 5, do the inverse or opposite of what is already being done. The inverse operation of division is multiplication. So in this case, we are going to multiply both sides by 5. When I multiply the left by 5 and the right by 5, these 5s are going to cancel. You know what? I just realized they wanted me to do it over here. So let me go ahead and grab this and move it down. I guess that's not going to work. Let me go ahead and just erase it all. Sorry. I was trying to be all tech savvy with you, and it did not work. I'm trying to get the x by itself. I need to multiply both sides by 5, so I'm going to put times 5 on the left, times 5 on the right. These are going to cancel, and I get x is equal to 10. All right, last one from this page. It says, example number 4, -w over 7 is equal to 3. The goal is to get the w by itself. Let me go ahead and highlight that w. To get w by itself, we must get rid of the 7. The operation between w and 7 is division. Right now it's being divided by that 7. Technically it's a -7 because I have that negative in the front. So to get rid of the 7, we're going to do the inverse or the opposite of what is already being done. The inverse operation is multiplication. Now remember, I call that a -7. So to get rid of that negative, divide by -7, I'm going to multiply both sides by -7. That's going to take care of the negatives, and it'll take care of the 7s, which is exactly what I want. Just the w is the one that drops down. 3 times -7 gives me a -21. And we are done with that front side. Again, we're going to do double notes today, so we got 4 pages to get through. That does take long. This part is a lot faster, okay? So we're moving on to the back side. Problem number 1 says a plus z is equal to 19. I'm trying to isolate the z, and I realize that the z is being added by 8. To get rid of it, I need to do the opposite. So the opposite of adding 8 is subtracting 8 on both sides. Notice that the line is on the bottom this time because we're not dividing. Z is going to drop, is equal to 19 minus 8 gives me 11. All right, moving on to the next one. I'm trying to get the x by itself. Right now, I realize that the x is being subtracted by 23. To get rid of the subtracted by 23, I need to do the opposite, which means I'm going to add 23 to both sides. Again, I am not dividing, so the line is going to go underneath, not in between, okay? These are going to cancel. The x is going to drop. I get x is equal to, and then when I add these two numbers together, the answer is 39. Trying to get the x by itself. Right now, I don't see an operation, so I need to remember that there's an imaginary dot there, which means that x is being multiplied by -16. To get rid of the multiplication of -16, we're going to do the opposite, which means we're going to divide both sides by -16. Notice since it's division, the line is going in between the two numbers, okay? These are going to cancel. And what's going to drop is just the x is equal to, and then the negatives are going to cancel here. And I believe 352 divided by 16 is 22. I don't expect you to know that on the top of your head. You would have to do that on the side and go through that whole process of dividing. That's where I got that 22 from, okay? All right, and then last problem, I have y over 5 is equal to 8. The goal is to get the letter y by itself. Right now, I'm realizing that it's being divided by 5. Let me write that again just because I want some more space to do my work. Y divided by 5 is equal to 8. To get rid of the divided by 5, I'm going to do the opposite, which is multiply by 5. These 5s are going to cancel. I get y equals 40 is my final answer. All right, that takes care of the one-step problems. Let me go ahead and back out of this. Let's go over to your two-step problems. Sorry, I do have the two-step, but it's the wrong one. Give me 1 second. This is the one I was trying to pull up. We're going to go through the process again. Again, it's a little lengthy in the front, but it becomes a lot faster in the back, okay? So example number 1, I have 2x plus 4 is equal to 8. These problems are a little bit more complicated. They're going to require 2 steps instead of just 1. So let's see how this changes. My first goal is to get, well, my goal is to get the x by itself. Step 1 is to get the term that has the variable alone. So we want to get the 2x by itself. That is to say, I'm trying to get this 2x by itself. Not just the x, but the 2x by itself. To do that, I must get rid of the 4. The 4 is being added to 2x. To get rid of the 4, you must do the inverse operation of what already is being done. So I know it's being added by 4. To get rid of it, I'm going to subtract 4 on each side. These 4s are going to cancel. Notice that the 2x drops on the left, and then 8 minus 4 is just 4. Hey, that's almost done. Oh, the inverse of addition, sorry, I didn't even realize that it had there, is subtraction. So we subtracted 4. Hey, we're not done because x is not completely by itself. Now that I got the 2x by itself, now step 2 is to get the variable x by itself. So now I'm going to just go ahead and figure out what's going on here. By the way, right here, they told me that 2x is equal to 4. So let me just go ahead and bring that down. I know that 2x is equal to 4. I don't like that they do that, but they do it, so that's fine. So I'm going to get the x by itself. The operation between the 2 and the x, right now that 2 is being multiplied by x. To get rid of that times 2, I'm going to do the operation between the 2 and the x is multiplication. Sorry, I know I'm a little scattered. I'm trying to do this quickly because I know there's a lot of stuff. To get rid of the 2, we must do the inverse operation. The inverse operation is division. So to get rid of the times 2, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I'm going to divide this side by 2, this side by 2. These are going to cancel. The x is going to drop. 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. And I am done with my equation. Let's take a look at the next one. It says solve negative 6 minus 3w is equal to 18. The goal is to get the w by itself. That's my goal, right? But in order for me to do that, I need like a step 1. The step 1 is to get the term that has the variable alone. So I want to get the 3w by itself. To get the 3w by itself, we must get rid of the 6. Hey, the 6 in this case is negative. To get rid of the 6, you must do the inverse opposite of what is already being done. So you see how it has that negative 6? I need to get rid of that negative 6 by doing the opposite, which is going to be adding a positive 6 to both sides. These 6's are going to cancel because they're opposites of one another. That negative 3w is going to drop, and then 18 plus 6 gives me a 24. All right, just like I said, this gets a little confusing, so I just figured out that negative 3w is equal to 24. Let me go ahead and transfer that information right here. I know that negative 3w is equal to 24. All right, step 2, get the variable w by itself. So now that I have a little bit less, now I'm really going to focus in on that w. The operation between negative 3 and w is multiplication because I don't see an operation. Remember, we're going to assume it's that little dot. To get rid of the negative 3, we must do the inverse operation. The inverse operation is division. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3 because we're doing the opposite. Notice that I have the line stuck between the two numbers because this is division. The w is going to drop. 24 divided by negative 3 gives me a negative 8. Example 3, I got negative 5 plus x over 4 equals to 2. Our ultimate goal is to get the x by itself. In order for me to do that, step 1 says get the term that has the variable alone. Right now, the term that has the variable is the x over 4. So I want to get x over 4 by itself. To get the x over 4 by itself, we must get rid of the 5. The 5 is negative. To get rid of the 5, you must do the inverse opposite of what is already being done. The inverse operation, well, the inverse of negative 5 is to add a positive 5. So we're going to be doing addition. We're going to be adding 5 to both sides. When I do that, notice that the line is underneath because I'm not dividing in this case. So I'm going to eliminate these two. The x over 4 is going to drop, and 2 plus 5 gives me 7. Before I move on, let me just write that. I know that x over 4 is equal to 7, okay? All right, step 2, now that I have it a little bit more simplified, now I am going to focus in just on the x, and I'm going to try to get that by itself. The operation between x and 4 is division. To get rid of the 4, do the inverse operation. The inverse operation is multiplication. So we are going to multiply both sides by 4. I'm going to multiply by 4 on the left, multiply by 4 on the right. These are going to cancel. I get x equal to, and then this gives me a 28. All right, one more, and the long parts are done. Okay, here we go. Negative w over 2 plus 6 is equal to 7. The goal is to get the variable w by itself. In order for me to do that, though, I need to get the term that has a variable alone. So I want to get the negative w over 2 by itself. To get the negative w over 2 by itself, I must get rid of the 6. The operation between negative w over 2 and 6 is addition. To get rid of the 6, we must do the inverse, or the opposite of what is already being done. The inverse operation is subtraction. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 6 from both sides. Remember, this is not division, so I'm going to put the line underneath. These are going to cancel. The negative w over 2 is going to go down. 7 minus 6 gives me a positive 1. Remember that I just got that negative w over 2 is equal to 1, so let me go ahead and write that down here. This is equal to 1. Now that I simplified it a little bit more, now my real goal is to get that w by itself, okay? The operation between w and negative 2, right now it's being divided, so we're going to say that this is division. To get rid of the negative 2, we must do the inverse operation. The inverse operation is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2. Remember, there's that negative in the front, so I'm trying to get rid of it as well. These negatives are going to cancel. The 2's are going to cancel. I'm just left with the w that falls, and then 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Okay, that takes care of the third page. Now we're going on to the back side. The back side should be a lot faster than the front side because I don't have to fill out all that stuff. Okay, almost done, guys. We're doing really good. I got 6x minus 12 is equal to 36. First, I want to get the 6x by itself because that's the term that has the x with it. That means I first need to get rid of that minus 12. To get rid of a minus 12, I need to do the opposite. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. These are going to cancel. The 6x is going to drop, and I get 48. Now that I have the x kind of by itself, now I really want to get it by itself. So I want to get that x completely isolated. I realize that it's multiplied by 6. I need to do the opposite to get rid of that. So I'm going to divide both sides by 6. Again, this time, since I'm doing a division, I'm putting that line in between the numbers. Okay, that means I'm dividing both sides by 6. I get x equals 48 divided by 6 gives me 8. All right, next one. I got 69 is equal to negative 4w plus 17. First, I want to get the term that has the variable isolated. So first, I'm just going to focus on getting the negative 4w by itself, which means I need to get rid of that plus 17. To get rid of a plus 17, we need to do the opposite operation, which is subtract 17 on both sides. Since I'm subtracting, I'm going to put the line underneath, not stuck between the two, okay? These 17s are going to cancel. The negative 4w is just going to drop. 69 minus 17, that gives me 52. Now that the w is a little bit more isolated, now I'm really going to focus in on it. I'm going to get that w by itself. I realize that the w is being multiplied by negative 4, so I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by negative 4. Because that's the inverse operation. These are going to cancel. The w is going to drop. Now I'm going to take 52 and divide it by negative 4, and I believe you get negative 13 as my answer. Two more problems. I got negative y over 6 minus 11 is equal to 7. In order for me to start solving this, I need to get the term that has the variable by itself. So I'm going to get this one by itself, which means I need to get rid of that minus 11. To get rid of the minus 11, I'm going to add 11 to both sides because that is the inverse operation. Because I'm adding 11, I'm going to put the line underneath because this is not division, okay? You only put the line in between when it's division. I don't know why I did that. These are going to cancel. I'm left with a negative y over 6 is equal to a positive 18. Now that I have that set up, I'm going to go ahead and do the opposite of division of negative 6, which is multiply by negative 6, because again, I'm trying to get this y by itself. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to multiply by negative 6 on the left, and I'm going to multiply by negative 6 on the right. The negatives are going to cancel. The 6s are going to cancel. The y is going to drop. 18 times negative 6, I'm not really sure what that is. So I'm going to do that really quick. That's 48, so bring up the 4. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 4 is going to give me a 10. So this should be a negative 108 as my final answer. We are down to our last one. I have z over 3 plus 18 is equal to negative 35. My goal initially is to get the term that has the variable by itself. So I'm going to get that z over 3 by itself first. That means I need to get rid of that plus 18. To get rid of a plus 18, we do the opposite operation, which is subtraction of 18 on both sides. Remember, I'm subtracting, so the line goes underneath, not in the middle. These are going to cancel. The z over 3 is going to drop. And when I subtract negative 35 minus 18, I get negative 53. Now my goal is to get the z by itself. I realize that the z is being divided by 3, which means I'm going to do the inverse operation. The inverse of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. The 3's are going to cancel, and I'm left with a z equals, and then when you multiply negative 53 times 3, the answer you get is negative 159. All right, we did 2 sets of notes in one day. Good job. I know it was a lot, but hopefully you were able to keep up. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.